All right, episode 15 of Montante's World. I appreciate having. Should I ask you this before? Shukri, right?
Yep, you said the name
Really?
correctly. Thank you.
Okay. How often do people get it right in the first time?
I don't even know. That's a good question. I mean, by and large part, they tend to get it right, but the fail percentage has been low. So I guess
Okay.
in that regard, it's a good thing.
Not that I was hoping you say that nobody really gets it right, so I was going to take credit for that. But you downplayed that right from the jump.
Oh man.
The first time I
So
saw you was that viral video when you were back at the garden.
yeah.
Is that your most viral video you've had? Get action on the internet.
Prior to that, I have to go with last year when I was at Kowloon's for the first time, and I tried those saugus wings, and that one really exploded. But you know what's funny about that? I was telling someone this a while back that I didn't want that to be like my defining moment, if you will, because I
Yeah.
was so much more than just Kowloon's and Saugus Wings guy. Given what I do, I'm a radio host, like both locally and nationally as well. I wanted people to see the work that I do and the work that I put out, and I produce both radio show wise and as well as podcasts as well. So like what's interesting is that when I started doing like the Bruins videos and so forth, I really thought nothing of it at all, frankly. I just thought, well, it's gonna get maybe a couple hundred views, like whatever, cool.
Yeah.
But little did I know that it just exploded. It
It
just
gained
took
traction
it just
real.
it literally exploded like
Yeah.
right away. And in the day of everything returning back to 100% here in Mass, on May 29th, which was I was at game one of the second round series against the Islanders.
How'd that go, by the way? I'm a big
I mean
hockey fan.
the Bruin the series not so well, but that game it went very
No,
well.
yeah.
But
I
considering
just
the significance of it, I couldn't help to to let me just create a video. And then what I'll never forget is someone literally like approached me and like tapped me on my shoulder like, dude, you're that guy on Twitter I saw. I'm like, what are you talking about?
yeah.
Like, by this point I'm not aware of like how
How viral it's
how,
gone.
how viral it was going to go
Yeah.
exactly. But by the time I got upstairs on the fourth floor of the greatest bar, it was just overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, humbling, but it was pretty awesome for
But
sure.
to be fair, you stick out a little bit at a Bruins game.
And why is that?
Huh? I'm just saying.
Mm,
Black hockey fans, they're kind of you're in the minority there,
which is true.
And how did you get into hockey? Because I have that written down because it is like I don't even like hockey that much. I don't know that many people do like hockey. How did
Wow,
you get into hockey? How did
hockey is a big thing here. Like,
it's
which
big in
is
Boston.
like yeah, like which is true. As for how I got into hockey from when I was young.
Can you ice skate?
Huh?
Can you like ice skate and play?
Well, no, that's something I absolutely
Okay, yeah.
wish that I could do. Like I could have done. I feel like I would have made a pretty good defenseman.
Yeah.
Um,
Got the
but
stamina.
but like I grew up like in like really liking the sport of hockey. Like I first started watching like the Devils, like like especially during their heyday when they were like winning Stanley Cups and going deep in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
They
And
changed the game the way they play blue line to blue line, right?
especially that 1-3-1 like trap zone
Mm-hmm.
defense. And
Horrible.
I just that yeah, and that's how it started for me. Like my sport, my love for the sport of hockey, like just grew from there. And I absolutely enjoyed watching the Detroit Red Wings for years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the talent they had in Detroit. That was something that I absolutely like loved. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how like my love for hockey began, and it's blossomed into a beautiful fanhood, and as well as
Yeah.
a passion for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah. Did you would you agree that hockey is by far the best sport to watch live?
Absolutely.
Not even
Absolutely.
close.
Even better than football, honestly. I mean,
Football, I
football,
think
yeah.
football is the opposite spectrum. I think football is the worst to watch live.
I don't why is that?
Too many TV timeouts, too many breaks between action, people standing up, go get beers, go pee. Angles, sometimes depending where you're sitting, if you don't have great seats, it's kind of hard to determine,
Right.
10 yards. You'll see a run and you're like, was that for 4 yards or 18? It's kind of. So yeah, hockey's unbelievable. The sounds, just the action nonstop. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
The one thing I never understood about hockey games. I don't know if it's just Barclays and what are the Devils play now? Prudential Center.
The play, at the Prudential Center, yeah.
When you're walking to go to your seat, the ushers like stop until play's done. It's like I'm in the 30th row. How am I getting hit by a puck?
The reason why they do that is because they don't want you to be, I guess, a distraction, like while play is going on, and they do that at the Garden too. Like, I mean, especially like early in the game, like if you're making your way to your seat, they're like, hold on, and then like once I play a stop, whether if it's a stoppage of play or a goaltender makes a save, they'll like, okay, you can go ahead now, and like that's primarily that's the reason I can think of also off the top of my head.
Yeah, I thought it was a safety issue. Like, this is ridiculous.
Oh no! I mean, what are the chances of a puck flying at least a few hundred feet in the air to the third grandstand level? Like, it's not likely.
That's why I've been confused about this for probably since I was 16, so 13 years now.
Yeah,
but the way you just laid it out makes 1,000% sense. So
for sure,
should have figured that a long time ago. So, like I said, you're doing work nonstop. I follow you on social media. You're pumping out videos, couple a day. Doing your radio work. When did you decide that you wanted to turn it from a hobby into, all right, we're going to make something from this and really kick it up a notch?
What's interesting? Like, I grew up in New York, actually. I was born and raised in New York. And as a kid, my father would, he would turn on news radio, and that's actually how it started. So if you will, I want to share with you. I'm sorry?
Princessa?
Yeah, before I get to that, no, like news radio specifically, not sports radio. Sports radio wasn't even my first love. That's what's interesting, and I think that's something that people are going to be most surprised about when they continue to learn more about my story and my journey so far. And I grew up listening to like 10 Wins in New York, and for those who grew up in New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And like I'll listen to like Lee Harris in the morning, or James Sparity, or Judy DeAngelis, like the legendary news anchor. She retired. That was my first love. I was 7, 8, 9 years old in the morning, listening to the news and just being very well versed on what's going on, like locally and even like nationally, or even around the world, for that fact of the matter. So for most 10-year-olds, they're like, what's going on in Yemen? Oh well, like the one of the naval ships. Funny you ask, because like I actually know what happened. So through that, it turned into sports like around 2002, 2003, around that time. Yeah, and through there, I started watching and listening to sports even more. Now I'm an 11, 12-year-old kid in New York, listening, watching sports. I didn't know about sports radio just yet. And what's interesting was that WFAN was the first radio station, sports radio station that caught my attention before I discovered 1050 ESPN radio at the time, which is now 98.7 ESPN.
Did they used to have those net teams too?
They still have the Nets. They've been on FAN for years now. Yeah,
sports, I think those were the Kmart teams. Those were the Kid teams, right?
Yep, you're correct. Kenyon Martin, Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Jason Collins. Yeah, don't forget also Vince Carter as well, who joined in I think 2005 as well.
Yeah, he was. Did he ever play with Kidd? I feel like he was like the second.
He did play with Kidd.
I just remember him playing like Devin Harris, and those teams were all right, but those early net teams with Lucius
early 2000s. Oh yeah,
awesome. I mean, they would have won a title if they didn't run into Shaq and Kobe.
And don't forget Tim Duncan, and as well as David Robertson as well in 2003.
Yeah, that means those teams. Yeah, I remember going to a game because I'm from New Jersey. And
what part?
Manu Ginobili is a rookie. He was one of the finals games. He he airballed the three. I was like, oh, that guy's awful. And like 20 years later, 3 titles.
He's a Hall of Famer.
I misread him a little bit.
4 rings. But by the way, what part of Jersey are you from?
Like direct middle. It's like everyone knows Red Bank, Long Branch.
You're not far from the Jersey Shore. Long Branch is basically that's right on the Georgia Shore.
I live in Seabright, so I'm a town. So if you listen closely, you can hear the beach. Yeah. Nobody knows Seabright. That's why you got to hit him with the long range.
That's why I was like, no. You unless you're a New Yorker and you're very well aware of like the New York tri-state area, like the Jersey Shore, like Long Branch, Seaside Heights, Belmar, like those towns, like like, and if you don't know, you actually need to get out of your damn bubble and actually get out and take New Jersey Transit sometimes.
Yeah, take transit down to Belmar, especially when you're freshly 21.
Yeah. Oh, don't even get me started on that. Listen,
that ride down is a lot more fun than the ride back.
Oh god, the ride back is a pain in the ass. It just is.
Stay awake and shit, so you don't miss your stop. But yeah, going down with your friends, crushing a couple beers. I derailed you completely. That's okay
because listen, some of the best radio podcast happens when you kind of like derail just a little bit. But I want to get back to that because like that's a really good and entertaining segment there. But so this is like around 2004. Like I'm 12 years old, summer of 04, unforgettable summer. I'm listening to Mike and the Mad Dog almost on a daily basis when I could when I wasn't in summer camp. Like, but when I get home from summer camp, I have my own radio in my room. So what's funny is that I would turn on that radio, and I remember the radio quite well to this day. I'll flick it on, turn on the WFAN, listen to Mike and the Mad Dog, and then I'll wait for Mets pregame, and then listen to the Mets game when it used at the time when Gary Cohen and Harry Rose would be calling the game every night. And like I'm a Yankee fan, but I listen because I love baseball, and I would listen to both Yankee games. I'll switch between WCBS 880 and WFAN, go back and forth just to see like what's going on, like what happened with the Yankee game, what happened with the Met game, and things like that. So it was through there that I started to develop a love for sports radio. I was like, you can talk sports on radio. How effing awesome would that be? Like, oh my God. Like, and so what really started to become like, or it started as a passion turned into a career and a career that's still growing to this point is, I would say, sometime in when I was in college, and my college, I went to Long Island University. They have a radio station, and I said, let me get involved. Just play around, and talk. I just talk sports. I didn't host my own sports radio show there at the time. That's my only regret.
Yeah.
But I would co-host, on a couple of different shows between 2009 and 2012, and that was that. But upon on the end of my college career, I remember like there was an opening for an internship at ESPN New York 98.7, and I said, what do I have to lose? I literally remember the moment. I'm in the library. It's a spring 2015 now.
Yeah.
I'm in a library, and I see the opening. It was on, I don't remember if it was LinkedIn or I don't remember if it was LinkedIn or Indeed, but anyway.
Probably, yeah.
Probably. So I saw it. I was like, I'm studying for finals. I'm getting ready to walk at graduation. What do I got to lose? I'll just apply. So I literally just said, I would just say, screw it. I'm going to just apply. And literally forgot about it. And I maybe thought about it maybe once or twice, but I didn't really ponder on it too much.
Yeah.
So July 2015, I get a call from a Florida number. I'll never forget this moment because it's so clear in my memory. Now, it's a hot Friday afternoon in New York City, in Coney Island, Brooklyn. I don't know if you've gone to Coney Island before, and you have. You know how wild it gets, summer, especially when you're walking along Surf and Stillwell.
Yeah.
And I'm walking past Nathan's, and I think I had their cheese fries and their fish sandwich. But by the way, absolutely freaking incredible. Nathan's fish sandwich. You gotta try it. You got to try it. It's so good. Yes.
They got the best crinkle fries in the world, though.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even up for debate. Yeah, it's not even up for debate.
If someone even wants to debate, I'd turn around and walk away.
I wholeheartedly agree. Like, I walk past Nathan's, I walk into the station, I get a phone call from a Florida number, and I'm like, I don't answer numbers I don't recognize. I'm like, what the hell is this? Put on my phone. Then my phone buzzes again. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Message.
Voice message. Okay. So I listen. Hi, this is so and so from Walt Disney Company. I saw that you applied for the internship for ESPN New York. I'm like, oh. And I was like, let me call this person back. Hi, hey, yeah, we saw that you applied, and we'd like to schedule you for an interview with first myself and then the program director, who was Justin Craig at the time, who's now the program director for ESPN Radio nationally. And I'll never forget just the feeling of shock. I was like, really? I grew up listening to 1050 ESPN before it became 98.7 ESPN. I was like, oh my God, how amazing would this be if I get the internship? Are you kidding me? And I interviewed with Justin Craig, and I'll never forget the interview. By this point, I'm on the bus. It's like one day after I had just finished work, right in the middle of summer 2015. And I'm like, listen, I know I got the knowledge. He's like, I could see that. I hear the passion that you carry, that you possess as well. So I just want you to reel it back in just a little bit. And just like, answer some of the questions I have for you and so forth. So, and I did exactly just that. So at that point, I was like, okay, whatever happens. At this point, now I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get it or not? Am I going to get the internship or not?
Yeah, now it's real.
And I'll never forget. At this point, I sent out an email saying, hey, not to the program director, but to the coordinator. I said, hey, I'm really curious, did I get the internship or not? And then I think it was either later that day or the following day, I got an email saying, hey, we actually do have an update for you. When is a good time to call you? And I was like, yeah, you can call me now. Like, I'm free. And I get on the B26 bus. And for those who know the Brooklyn buses, the local buses in New York, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm heading towards downtown Brooklyn. And she calls me. He said, hey, we actually have an update for you. And we would like to offer you the internship if you're still interested. I'm like,
yeah.
I remember the feeling of shock. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just genuinely shocked and amazed. I was like, are you kidding me? She's like, no, for real. Like, I mean, the program director really, really liked your passion, your knowledge. And they want to hire you as the
He was blown away with your information on Yemen.
But you know what? It goes back to that because honestly, this is the thing that I tell people. I never really discussed before, so you could consider this to be exclusive, if you will. My ability to be well versed on what's going on in the world comes from my first love for news radio. Now, when I say news radio, I'm not talking about like liberal or conservative. I'm talking about straight off the bat
with no slant.
Right, exactly. Like news radio. Like my dad would put me on. He'll have me listen to NPR. He'll have me listen to Pacifica Radio. He'll have me listen to that. Like there's no slant at all. Like it's information, and then like their opinion and then what's going on. It's not based on any political like slant or affiliation.
All FM radio.
Exactly. It's all FM radio. Exactly. So it's like that's where it all started for me. And it turned into sports as I into my teenage years. Yeah. Now, by the time I got the internship with ESPN New York 98.7 FM in September 2015, by this point, I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to go into the studio that have a first glimpse as to how sports radio actually works.
What show were you gonna work on? Because I think Stephen A. Smith might have been there back then.
He was, I believe, national. If my memory serves me correctly, I believe 2015. No, he was national, but he was on on 98.7 ESPN, but national. It wasn't local based. Because remember, he did have a show local based in New York.
Yeah,
back in like 2005, 2006. Back in that time.
Was it that long? Because I remember I was a garbage man. We used to listen to on the way to the dump. We'd always listen to Ryan Rucco and Stephen A. Smith. It was like before.
Yeah, that was like 2011, 12. Like
okay, yeah. I did that right out of high school. So that timeline and you could tell right then and there, Stephen A. Smith was He was just Ruocco was good too, but Stephen A. Smith just had that about him.
Yeah, exactly. Like Stephen A. had like how he said at the time. It's funny because he was like, like I could really see you, Ryan Ruocco, really becoming like a really big star in his business, and he was right. Like, I mean, look what Ryan Ruocco has become, especially locally. He does Yankee games local, I mean, like part time for the Yes Network.
WNBA games,
WNBA, the lead WNBA games for ESPN, and as well as as well as also the Nets games on Yes as well. So like,
he's just waiting for Kay to retire. Then that job is his for the next 50 years. Kay jokes about it because you don't get it anymore. Kay's like, he's just waiting for me to die.
Basically.
So
now like I got an internship, and that was my first professional exposure into sports radio. How does it work? What does production look like? Like running the boards, screening phone calls, answering phones, all of those things. And I learned all of those things like on the fly, and I really do give tremendous credit to the producers who I work with. Shout out to Ray Santiago and RJ
Santillo.
Santillo. Like, I have nothing but immense love and respect for them even to this day. Even though it's been almost 6 years, but they took me under their wing, and they work with me because I work mostly at nights, mostly, but with some afternoons here and there. But mostly at night, so I would always be working like towards the end of the Michael Kay show, or like if there wasn't a play-by-play event, I would, work alongside with him. They're doing the Ranger radio broadcast, and then ESPN New York would have
Greca.
Greg, like Donna Greca was doing the pregame and the postgame at the time.
And then the show after Kay used to be Larry Hardesty.
Yeah, that was a show that I would work on. Yeah, about 90% of the time. So I would work. Oh, amazing! He could not have been more gracious and really warming towards me, like in every regard, and I really mean that sincerely.
He seemed legit, but some of these people are nice on air. Then you see these clips of them like when they're off looking like psychopaths. So that's good to hear that.
I one of the things that I've learned, and it wasn't from that station, but just more like learning just how people can be like away, like people can be like not so pleasant, but with him, oh my god, like I have nothing but really good things to say. And one of the things that I took from that was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. So all I want to do is just listen and shut up. And my advice to anyone, and I'm serious, like for anyone that is looking to get into this industry, open your ears and close your mouth.
That's it. Soak it in.
Open your ears. Ask questions. Don't be a know-it-all because you don't know it all. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I want to ask. I have a few questions I want to ask you because those things do go a long way. So when I first moved to Boston in February 2017, which is now 4.5 years ago, which is hard to believe, I didn't know anybody. Like I didn't know anybody in the business personally, anything like that. So for me, I would say that it took me a good 2.5 years before I really finally begun to like hit foot sledding, if you will. But it wasn't without this one advice that I received from someone who I was dating at the time in April of 2019. So I made it a point to reach out to someone, and that someone was Bob Sosi, who's the radio play-by-play voice of the Patriots.
Okay.
And he was more than gracious enough to give me his time and really talk to me about like things that I could do to like, to work my way into the industry and so forth. And even like a few months later, when I was getting frustrated that things still weren't happening, and the one station that I thought I could at least break in terms of getting on-air experience and having the opportunity to work on my craft, I hadn't heard back from. That was from 91.5 FM WMFO. It's a community radio station as well as a college radio station as well. But I finally heard back in June of 2 years ago.
Okay.
And when I did, I said, I'm interested in hosting my own sports radio show. And that's and that's how it all began. And I went through the training. I went through everything that they asked me to do. And the day that I finally found out that I was going to have my own radio show, it was a moment of surrealness, because number one, being a native New Yorker, you grew up in New York, you're well aware of the broadcasting titans that are in that city alone. You're like, now I have my own radio show at age freaking 27.
Yeah.
Like that was something I was like, that is really incredible. But I also understood that it was a continuation of, I gotta continue to press forward, because this is not the end. This is not where I want to be. I want to keep pushing for more, and I did, and that's how I started, like, going towards with another radio station, and I'm still with 91.5 FM WMFO. Speaking of which, I want to make this very clear. I made a video the other day about WMFO, and I was saying that right now, like, I'm still with the radio station. I never left the radio station. So I still have a radio show with the radio station. What I am waiting for is for them, and I'm hoping that this does in fact happen in 2 months, that they allow everyone back in and to be able to do the shows live.
Yeah.
Because the show, everything that you're hearing from that station in the Boston area via on the TuneIn Radio app, and as well as locally on terrestrial radio, those shows are all pre-recorded. So like I haven't left the station. I'm still there, just waiting for them to so we could return back to doing shows live. So with that being said, I had reached out to another station, WBRS, and I said, hey, I really would like to, do a radio show with that station as well. And interestingly enough, they brought me on, and I still have my radio station there as well. And January was when I reached out to the head of Pacifica Radio Network, which has over 200 radio affiliates across the country, and I said, hey, I want to host my own national sports talk show, and I went through a whole vetting process, like, cause it was extensive. They didn't just give it to you. Like they were like, listen, you're going to be on national radio. This is not. This isn't like
that to anybody,
Yeah, exactly, right. And I went through that whole vetting process, and by the grace of the Almighty, I was blessed with that opportunity, and it was really, it was a powerful moment, because it was like, okay, here I am, and I'm still busting my tail, like, trying to get into reps, doing podcasts, podcasts.
That transition perfect. My next question.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I wanted to ask you. So you said you're working, you're doing it the right way. How do you feel when you see Addison Ray the other day just go from zero to that job just overnight, just because of kind of the way she looks and her stature?
I hate it, and I want to have a moment of brutal honesty here.
Yeah.
Number one, I'll be the first to admit that I've had to work a lot on overcoming my stuttering, in which that it was really bad. It was like stuttering, mumbling. Like, it was really bad when I was.
I haven't heard it once yet.
It was bad when I was younger. Honestly, It was really like I have like maybe milli moments where it'll show up.
Yeah.
But it's not pronounced at all. Like, I had to actively work at that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as part of my maturation process in radio, and as well as being comfortable speaking behind a mic, amongst other things that go into radio. So when I see people like Addison Ray, like, like, hey, I only spent 3 months in college before I landed this opportunity. And I'm like, all right, number one, I know firsthand how competitive this industry is. Don't you dare make a mockery of this process, because some people work their behinds off their entire lives and never get that chance. Like, this isn't a game. For most people, and I would say I am one of those people, this is their life.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing to put in the work. And there's no, well, hey, here I am. I just cut in front of the whole line. Like, no, because you will get exposed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then the people that are say, well, I don't see anything wrong with that. Well, here's the problem: you're not in that industry, so you don't understand the level of competitiveness that it entails. And then also, I would even say the hard work that goes into it, busting your ass, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, doing 6 a.m. shows, like putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it really genuinely makes me angry when I see people who do that, because it's like you're undermining the whole process. Like, what exactly have you done to actually get yourself in that position, instead of tweeting about it, say, hey, you know, I did this for 3 months and here I am. Like, and then on top of that, later in the day, by the way, she tweets out, oh, never mind, y'all just got me fired. I'm like, no. You're not running from accountability. We didn't know. When I say we, social media didn't get you fired. No,
that was just the feedback. That was just
like,
the common feel to
right.
it.
Like it was like really, like, whatever. I don't know what the story is, so I'm not even going to speculate. But it's like, stop it. You're trying to get sympathy points, and it's like, nah, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
She definitely did. And that's the thing, is you've been out in the ride. You've been, waiting in line for the ride for 4.5 hours. You're getting bug bites, mosquitoes, and you just see her walk by. She doesn't even walk by. She goes by in a little, in a little scooter, and gets off and just walks up and goes on the ride 4 times. And you're still waiting. Yeah, it's. I saw that was a common sentiment. It looked like people were just like, I get it, she's famous, but what about her would translate to her getting this role when there are people who actually, like I said, grinding, doing stuff like that. So this does not transition that well, but I do want to hear your perspective. So being a black guy in Boston and being a sports fan, how do you feel when you hear like the Adam Jones stories and the Kyrie Irvings and whatnot? What's your take on that?
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. How do I feel? Number one, I hate to break it to you, but racism in Boston still exists.
More so than at other cities, you think?
No, it's a societal problem. But the reason why Boston stings a bit more is because the city has its history with racism. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Boston does not have an intense racist past. It does. Like, I'm not worried about the perception or what people are going to say or what they're going to feel, because I'm not going based on my personal feelings. I'm going based upon facts. When you have an image of an African American about to be speared with an American flag from 1976 as his image for the longest of time, there's a problem.
But do you think, but not to cut you off, but do you think that actually happened, or do you think that these athletes know the history, they know the narrative, and so when they say that about Boston, it won't be looked into, and it automatically just assumed that it's real?
They know. I think honestly, they know the history, but they also are aware that these things do happen. Let's be honest.
You think it did happen,
go. Let's take a look at, for example, Bill Russell. How was he treated when he?
That was before our lifetimes.
Like, what doesn't matter?
Not well.
Like,
I know that very poorly. I know someone broke into his house and took a shit on his bed.
Like, no, we're talking. I mean, Bill Russell was a person in which that for years had to sleep in a different hotel. He endured racism at basically at every turn, especially during his playing career. And I'm just using him as a starting point to build to a larger point. I think it's incredibly short-sighted to pretend that like racism with black athletes in Boston is only a recent thing, when it has had a lengthy history time and time again. And unfortunately, in 2017, when a Red Sox fan thought it would be okay to yell out the N-word at Adam Jones.
So you believe that? Do you think that?
I honestly do believe it. Yes, because and I'm going to tell you why. And the reason is because, unfortunately, this is not something that's new. This is not something that's new with athletes of color being called the N-word at visiting ballparks. This is not something that's new when it comes to athletes visiting Boston and being harassed, whether it be on social media. Should I remind people of what happened with Joe Ward in Game 7 of the 2012 first round series against the Bruins? What happened shortly after? Should I remind people about
what happened with that? Because I generally don't.
Okay, so in 2012, the Bruins in April of 2012, the Bruins started their defense of the Stanley Cup. They entered the Stanley Cup playoffs as defending Stanley Cup champions. That series went to a Game 7. And that Game 7, unfortunately, turned out to be the last game that Tim Thomas would ever play for the Boston Bruins. Joe Ward scored the overtime winning goal to send the Capitals to the second round against the New York Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, unfortunately, those Bruin fans, and I'm not saying the entire fan base, but
enough of them.
But enough of them were basically like it was pretty pronounced on Twitter, like basically calling him a monkey or the N-word. And I remember seeing the articles at the time, and I was like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah,
like it was incredibly disheartening. And I'm like, dude, like really, you have to be better than this. Yeah. So when I hear stories like this, no, it's not out of the realm of possibility, like, because these things do happen. Because
I just think if that happened with Adam Jones, I think in 2017, if you say that, you're getting your ass kicked. I would like to think that. I would like to think that there might be, if you're around 30 people and 30 people hear it, 3 of them might agree with you and might, give a little fist pump, but I think the majority would be like, are you fucking kidding me? In 2017, I don't, but it's hard for me I wasn't there, and it's hard for me as a white guy to be like, I think that black guy's lying, but I think he's lying. I just think I like the hope that didn't happen. I think that there would have been more of a reaction from the people around them, because I don't think people be like, oh, good one. Like, hey, let me buy that guy a beer. Great comment. I like to think in 2017, people are like, are you fucking kidding me?
Unfortunately, that's not the reality, because you do have people who will idly sit by silently and not say a word. So, unfortunately, while I would like to hope that, well, they will all turn out and beat the guy up or whatnot, not advocating for physical violence.
I mean, but
the reality is that there are too many instances where people would see moments of racism and not say a word, and that is equally as damaging as actually standing up and voicing your opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So do you side with Kyrie Irving then? Do you think he was legit?
No, and I'm gonna tell you, but no, there's a difference. I'm gonna tell you why. Kyrie Irving at that point, because you see, context is everything, and what drives me off a wall is that when people bring this topic up, they're like, well, do you think Kyrie's actions were right? And frankly, I said he had a point, but the issue with that was that he used that as a distraction to get around the real story, and that was this was going to be the first time in 2 years since he left the Celtics in such a disgusting way, in a cowardly way, that he was going to face fans at that.
Yeah, he said, look over here. He distracted. It was
right. It was more like a distraction. So here's what happened shortly after. Oh, congratulations, for 2 days on Boston Sports Radio. This is all we talked about, by and large part.
They talked about it here.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, especially in the New York area. Yeah. But understand that, especially here, because again, context, the city, its intense history with racism, because, and especially the way that black athletes are treated or were treated. That's the reason why it became such a sensitive topic, and I feel that it's important to add context to this. Yeah. Was Kyrie Irving wrong about what he's about, hoping fans would, just keep it to basketball and so forth? No. But was he wrong in the context and the way that he brought it up? Yes.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Those two things can coexist. So that semi relates to something race related. Well, people are making it out to be. I don't know if you think it is or not. But Stephen A. Smith, what do you think about his comments on the face of baseball right now? Not Mike Trout, who's absolutely boring, but Shohei Ohtani is the most, probably the most entertaining baseball player that I can remember, from years past.
I was pissed, and for my own reasons. And I want to start by saying the following: that as a person of color, as a person who's also an African American, as an African American, you understand the plight of which the black community has endured for years, stereotypes, generalizations, and so forth. For him to come out and to say that Shohei Ohtani can't be the face of baseball because he needs an interpreter is incredibly disgusting, and it's wrong. Now, I'm not going to sit here. Now, I'll be the first I will put this out there publicly. I like to be supportive. I'm very supportive, but I'm even more supportive of African American men and women who are trying to better themselves and better their lives as a whole. Mm-hmm. Very supportive, but I'm also not afraid to criticize when it's warranted.
Yeah,
when someone does something wrong. This was 100% wrong. There was something. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between. I don't think that Shohei Ohtani should be the face of baseball because he's lacking. He's lacking a certain skill in the field, or he strikes out too much, or his batting average is too low. I get that, no problem, fair enough. But when you turn around and you say that, well, someone can't be a face of a company or a face of a team or a face of a sport because, well, he needs a translator. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like someone who may be white going up to a phone and say, hey, you should come and speak English. You're in America, speak English. You understand how condescending that sounds? And it doesn't matter where it comes from or who says it, but it's condescending as hell. So when I heard that, I'm like, are you serious? Prejudice? Yeah. Yes, very much so. Yeah. And especially in a time in which that, oh, by the way, the hate and the anti-Asian hate that has existed in this
trending forever.
Like the anti-Asian hate that exists in this country right now has never been more high. And for him to say that, dude, it could not have been more disturbing and just so disheartening to hear.
It's just, and from someone who's very successful, like it was just so tone deaf. I also think, and this is my opinion, this is just what I think. I think if Ohtani or if what's his name, Soto was having just as good as a year and could pitch, and he was the face of baseball, I don't know if Stephen A. Smith says that about a Dominican player.
And I think that's fair because we haven't heard or seen anything that would indicate that, well, he feels that way towards Latinos or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I just find it to be really disheartening. And to top it all off, the part that bugs me deeply is, listen, I don't give a crap if he is someone who can speak English well or not. Can he perform? Can he do the job well? Can he hit home runs? Yes. Can he pitch? Yes.
Exactly.
He can do all of those things well.
Yeah.
So why are we sitting here talking about, well, he needs a translator, so he can't, like, no. Cut it out. Just cut it out.
Because Mike Trout can speak perfect English and he is boring as hell.
I mean, he chooses to be, because listen,
you don't have to be entertaining, live your life. But I think Ohtani's play on the field alone, who cares about what he says, is a great face of baseball. I mean, he's doing stuff that, he plays like a creative player in MLB The Show. What he's doing is just, it seems fake. I want to get back to one of the videos that I saw that I laughed, and I disagree with you on heavily, is your utter hatred of Sweet Caroline.
I hate it. You're not gonna change my mind. But I'm gonna
hate it immediately, or did it grow on? The hatred just fester over time.
The hate really festered over time. It just did. Like, I mean, here's my problem.
The catchy tune.
It's not even so much as a catchy tune, but it's like, dude, traditions can change. People can change and evolve. Like, I mean, what people have to understand is that just because something is deemed as tradition doesn't mean that it can't change. And I genuinely effing hate that. And I say that because if you are a person who is a traditionalist, I oftentimes believe that you have to evolve with time. You have to grow with time. You can change with time. Like, just because things are what they are and they've been what they've been for so long doesn't mean that it can't evolve. Like, I mean, I don't mind them playing music in the middle of the 8th inning, but I think the song choice is just no. You're at a sporting event. Like, my thing is, huh?
What would you change it to? If
I would change it to like Metallica or even Bon Jovi. You Give Love a Bad Name. I think You Give Love a Bad Name would be perfect.
Huh? That's not a bad answer. I thought I was gonna put you on the spot. I would personally go with a nice catchy tune. Being around here, being Italian, Dominic the Donkey.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's also a pretty good one.
That'll get the people going.
Mm-hmm.
At Citi Field, 8th inning. Mets are about to blow a 9th inning game. Let's enjoy it before. Let's get a little Dominic the Donkey flowing.
Wasn't that their story like over the weekend and he blew another 9th inning lead?
Yeah, Edwin Diaz has been unbelievable this year. Bounced back. The trade's actually not looking that bad because Kelenic kind of looks like he's still young, but he looks awful from when he's played. So I mean, Robinson Cano, thank God he got popped for steroids. Thank you, Robinson, for cheating again.
His career's over.
Yeah, I pray to God because if he tries to come back, it'll hurt the salary next year. Although we have the richest owner in the world, so it doesn't really matter anymore. That would hamper them back in the day. But Edwin Diaz looks good. But yeah, I mean, versus the Pirates, I mean, I think you could hit clean up for the Pirates. So yeah, that was a really bad loss. But I'm trying to keep it under an hour. There's a couple things I want to ask you. I've never understood about New England athletics.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So you've been there for a few years. You have a feel of the town.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, they had a couple teams at Boston College that were good, but Boston College is never. I'm too young for Flutie. So are you. We're both 29.
Mm-hmm.
If Boston College became a perennial powerhouse, making the playoffs maybe every 3 years, always top 10, big recruits, where would Boston College football rank in like the power structure in New England sports?
That's a good question. They should be ranked high consistently every year. But don't get me wrong, like Boston College home games in the fall are definitely a big thing here.
Chestnut Hill, right? Is where they play?
Yeah, because I live in Brighton, so I'm actually like closer to BC than I am to BU.
Yeah.
And on a Saturday or even whenever they have Friday night games, you see people walking around in BC gear or going to like take the green line to Boston College at the last stop, and it's like it's actually really awesome to see, especially growing up in New York where college football is not a thing. It's not a thing. Like, you have to go all the way to freaking Syracuse or to Rutgers for that. Like, yeah.
And Rutgers had that run.
Yeah, that was what, 2006? Yeah, 2006.
Yeah, I actually have a very problematic Ray Rice jersey in there. I'm not gonna. That one did not age well.
Not at all. It did not age like aged cheddar at all. It went moldy rather.
That ended poorly. But Shiano's back. I don't know, but I'd be curious to see like New England, and even when you look at like the NFL breakdowns, I always find it interesting. They show like where players are from. New Jersey always has a lot. Texas, everybody knows. Mm-hmm. California, Florida, but then you get to New England, and it's like they just, I don't know. They never put players in the NFL. When they do, they're lunatics like Aaron Hernandez. So maybe we'd be better off with less New England players in the NFL.
I mean that's one way that you could look at it, but I think also. That's a good question because I feel like it's to be completely honest with you, hockey is really where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are more players from Massachusetts, in New England, in the NHL than there are NFL players.
Oh,
hockey is I would honestly say if you took out the last 20 years of Patriots dominance here in New England,
I would love to.
Hockey. Of course you would. Hockey is like the heart and soul, in my honest opinion, of the New England sports fan, especially Boston. It's a hockey city, 100%.
Over the Celtics, you think?
How was that?
If you pulled 10 Bostonians, would you rather the Celtics win next year or the Bruins? What do you think? What's the results of that?
Bruins.
Really?
100%.
Like 6 out of 10 or like 8 out of 10?
I would honestly say we leaned more towards 7 out of 10.
Jeez, that's
because this is where the Bruins are right now. The Bruins are at a point in which that they realize that their cup winning window is closing, not opening, it's closing.
Yeah.
And the core guys like Krejci, who's going to be a free agent now, and as well as Tuca, those guys are getting older. And Marchand, Bergeron, those guys are getting older. You already lost Zdeno Chara last offseason and whatnot. So the time to win is now, and the urgency. I wrote a column for Causeway Crowd on Fansided for discussing and covering the Boston Bruins that the front office has to have a level of urgency. And I think that Bruin fans feel that same level of urgency, like, hey, we got to do something because next season it is going to be really tough when the divisions are realigned back to way that they were prior to the pandemic. And you're going to have Tampa Bay, Toronto, Montreal, the New York Rangers, and the New York Islanders all back within that in that same division again. So, and especially the Washington Capitals as well. Like, so the urgency has to be there to actually improve this team. And I think Bruin fans would absolutely want to see a Stanley Cup, like maybe next year, as compared to the Celtics.
It's been so long since you guys had a title. How do you guys do it? Oh, must be tough.
I mean, New York sports hasn't seen a championship since 2011.
That's why I hate you guys. Are so it's like, oh, shut up. Be a Met fan, be a Jet fan, be a Knick fan. I've seen no titles for my teams. I'm so sick.
I mean, the Mets, you can blame ownership. I mean, inadequate ownership. Honestly, I mean, ownership prior to Steve Cohen taking over as owner absolutely sucked.
You don't think?
I have been
strategy get caught up with Bernie Madoff. You think that was a bad move? That was a bad move to get caught up with Bernie Madoff. You don't think that's a good ownership move?
No. What do you got? What are you out of your mind?
Only the Mets would do that.
Like, of course, only the New York Mets would be idiotic enough to do that. But that's neither here or there. So with that being said, I would say, listen, I don't know what to say except that the Bruins, if they had won Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years ago, you would have seen something that had not been seen in any city in our lifetime in terms of championships won within a 9 months stretch. You had the Red Sox in October of 18. You had the 2018 New England Patriots win the Super Bowl in February of 19. And I want to share this with you because I remember saying this a few days after the parade. Right, and I was at the parade in downtown Boston, and I remember saying, Red Sox, check. Patriots, check. Bruins, Celtics, either one of you teams is next. And I was saying, Bruins, you're next. At the time, I thought maybe the Celtics, if they can find and figure out the situation in terms of why the team is so damn rotten with Kyrie and Al Horford and the whole situation with Tatum and Brown. Mm-hmm. I was hoping they can figure it out, but we all know how that ended. But so it was like, no, Bruins, you really have a legitimate chance. And everything fell into place for them to actually do it. All you had to do was show up for Game 7 of the Cup Final, and they didn't, which would have been 3 championships in 8 months.
Tampa's trying to shit. They could do that now with the Rays. They're a little pesky team. They could put together three titles this year.
Maybe. I mean, let's see how things go in the second half because right now they're a game and a half back of the Red Sox, and I do think that the Tampa Bay Rays, they are going to be a team to keep an eye out for because they're not out of it. Although they may have lost Tyler Glass now, and I mean that's a pretty big loss for an extended period of time. But however, I don't think that they are a team that Red Sox fans can overlook because they are that type of team in which that they have better pitching than the Red Sox do at this current moment in time. I mean that's just being completely honest.
Yeah, I mean. It's just funny for the Yankees. I love seeing. So do you, I bet. Oh no, you said you're a Yankee fan?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, okay. Well, I hate the Yankees. Growing up being the younger brother, just always hating the older brother winning.
That's okay.
Right. Nathan, how they let Nathan Eovaldi walk is unbelievable. I've never.
I know how. I'm gonna tell you how. So after the 2016 season, the Yankees said, "Hey, we're gonna let him walk because." And I've said this for years about Eovaldi. He's always had the raw stuff. That's never been a question. That's never been a problem. He's always had the raw power fastball, slider, change, but he can never put it together. And what are the odds? Oh, this year. Oh, hey, yay. Oh, by the way, he's an all-star.
Yeah.
He's an all-star this year. What are the odds? No big deal, right? Like, honestly, it happens. Like, maybe New York may not have been the place for him because not everybody is meant to thrive in New York, especially playing for the New York
Yeah.
Yankees. Like, that's just the bottom line.
That's from a mental standpoint. But if you're a power pitcher and you're pitching in a ballpark that looks like a little league field,
Oh, stop it! Like, stop it!
was like
Oh,
two
oh, oh, are we are
in
we
left
are we
field.
really comparing fields between Yankee Stadium and City Field? Like, which by the way, your
That's a big
power
difference.
hitters for the first few years of City Field's existence couldn't hit a damn home run for if you even if you try to buy 10,000 damn sticks.
I
I
know.
mean, you had to move the fences in. So I don't want to hear about Yankees looking like a bandbox when your own hitters couldn't hit a goddamn home run like for the first few years of his
Hey, we had to catch
existence.
up with it. We had to catch up with the times, but
Yeah, you had to instead of trying to recreate the New York damn polo grounds of the 1910s.
yeah, that's. I was at the first game at City Field. I remember like, Jesus, this ballpark's really big. And
Yeah,
it worked though. We had the power pitching. We had the best. We were going to win multiple World Series with Harvey, Syndergaard, and then Harvey fell off. Cliff. Syndergaard can't stay healthy, but DeGrom's the best to ever do it. So I'll end with this because I am intrigued because I always wonder about this. If you had to be a GM for any of your favorite teams and you have a lifetime contract, if you do bad, you're not getting fired. Jerry Jones style, you're the GM and you get to mold your teams for the rest of your life. Who would you pick?
Bruins, the Boston Bruins. I really would because reason being is I just think that the mindset of the Bruins front office has got to change. Like you need to go out and actually get players that could actually do the job and like fill in that bottom six and not just get a player and think that's going to be suffice. Like you need to show some balls, show some cojones to make moves that is going to field a team that can win the Stanley Cup because this team, there's no reason why this core and this era of Bruins hockey should only have seen one Stanley Cup when they've gotten to three cup finals just in the last decade alone. That to me is inexcusable.
So what move would you make?
Well, if I'm the Boston Bruins, I would look to the really short up the bottom six forward group. I would look towards like maybe adding a Barclay Goodrow or a Blake Coleman, or like go out and get another. Get a couple. You need two defensemen. Like you need defensemen with size, like with muscle, because the Bruins have gotten too small, and I just feel like they don't have grit. And I was really a big proponent of the idea if the Calgary Flames have bought out the contract of Milan Lucic, that the Bruins go out and go sign him and add him to that fourth line. But since that didn't happen, I was like, okay, that ship has sailed. No problem. But I really do think that you also got to look at the goaltender position, and I would really strongly consider like adding Jeremy Swayman, having him play a full NHL season.
Yeah, that Tuukka Rask, I mean, he's a stud. He's good, but those performances the last couple of games with the Islanders were just abysmal.
He was badly injured, and what pissed me off as a Bruins fan was the fact that Bruce Cassidy said we're going to stick with him. Like, no, that was the wrong move, moron. Like, what you should have actually have done was go with the guy that was healthy. I would have taken my chances with Jeremy Swayman. It's okay to make goaltender changes in the playoffs. You're not the first team to do it.
And an injury is bad enough when you're trying to play goalie, but when you're like 43 and you're injured, it's even tougher. But yeah, I think Blake Coleman would be nice. Is he? I feel like he'd just be a guy who's actually like a Southie guy. Is he?
I don't think he is. But that's a good question, but I'm not sure.
He's just a tough, hardworking guy.
He is,
but he'll also punch you in the throat and not think twice about it.
Yeah,
he was good on the Devils for a little bit, so.
Oh, for sure. And you saw what he was able to do with the Lightning winning back-to-back Stanley Cups as well, and being a big part of those teams as well.
It was a big piece. I mean, that Lightning team. How long do you think it's going to take for them to come back to like down to earth and be like just an average playoff team? Because right now they're a weapon.
It starts this offseason because I really do believe that they have question marks in terms of how are they going to deal with the salary cap situation because they're going to have to.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely have to address that. And I think that a big part of the all season for the Tampa Bay Lightning is that they are going to have to figure out what are they going to do in terms of getting under the salary cap, because they're going to have some key guys that are going to be free agents. I mentioned Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman, I believe Alex Killorn as well, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
some key members of their teams of the teams are going to be UFAs, and then you're also going to have some other guys like Curtis Joseph, who's going to be a restricted free agent as well. So they have some decisions to make.
And in baseball, you just overpay and just pay. But NHL, they're probably the most strict sport when it comes maybe
In terms of the salary cap, oh, absolutely, I would
yeah.
say so. Yeah.
Yeah, they're extreme. So yeah, what do you say? Because it's almost like that Islander team 9 times out of 10 wins a Stanley Cup, but they just went up against the better.
They were a
team.
wagon. Like, I
Oh,
mean, I
yeah.
get that people will be mad about the salary cap circumvention, but I'm also like, you know what? Put that aside for a moment. Just look at the roster. Their roster is just, there is no team in the NHL. I don't care what team you root for that was going to be able to compete against that Lightning team this past season. There was just no chance.
You could get them one night. You could catch them on the wrong night, but through a series of 7,
no,
you ain't gonna beat. I mean, that team's damn near impossible to take down. But listen, I had a good time talking sports with you. We were right at the hour. I appreciate it. You're talking a couple of different things, and you were 15 minutes late. I'm not salty about that. I wasn't sitting there 15 minutes looking at the computer. But thanks again, man.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure to come on and talk sports with you, and chop it up. Handles. What's that?
Throw out your handles. Throw out your podcast. Let's plug it before we're done.
I appreciate it. You can listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio. It's called the Shukri Wrights Podcast. It's available on iHeartRadio and as well as other major podcast platforms. You can watch it on YouTube. Type in the Shukri Wrights Podcast, as well as follow me on social media, Twitter at Shukri Wrights. It's at SHUKRIWRIGHTS. And follow me on Instagram at SWrightsRadio_.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, I figured how to get that in there.
No worries.